We had an interesting PM today, and I really want to break it down because I really haven't talked about PM because I don't trade it often. Usually I'm working or it's just later in the day and I don't trade it. But that doesn't mean that PM doesn't have great price action because some of these days that I mentioned in the previous video, we create these market maker sell models in that last 90 minutes distribution expansion in the day. And our distribution expansion in the day is really just a distribution extended with another expansion or 90-minute cycle. So this is an old ICT concept, and we're going to talk about the last macro of the day and why it actually incorporates quarterly theory. But let's refer to our 4 hour first. Because we have this 4 hour SMTF, I'm not going to pull up ES, but off of this, we also have our weekly cycle. Like I said, all-time high was swept. We have the SMT with ES. The Dow also hasn't swept all-time highs yet, so just noting that. We also have shifted structure on the 4 hour with the two candles. We have a CISD confirmed. 2 or 3 candles is valid for CISD. Coming down to the 1 hour, we just have this high, very prominent high. Anything higher than that, there's not really a high, it's just a gap. And off of that, we have a breaker as well. So you can grade the breaker if we do trade up into there and like we do create a high and it's weaker. But since it's already played out before, we know we can't have foresight, but after it's played out, you can see it was pretty aggressive. And we're going to get into the PA in that last like 90 minutes, and it is pretty aggressive. Coming down to the 15-minute chart. First, I want to talk about the doubling BPR. This is mainly how I saw our high was so aggressive, and then we had this 15-minute fill in this just large gap. Because we didn't fill even into CE of it, I knew it was just so aggressive because we had this overlying confluence. And reading this is almost like reading order flow. There's subscriptions for gamma levels and 0DT option order flow and like all these things to read like where the orders are and what price level. And so I'm using price action because that's just ICT concepts and that's what I know. So this is how I read that this was a significant high. And when I saw that 4 hour SMTF, when it was mentioned in a Discord, not my Discord, but a Discord, I had to look at the charts because I just wanted to get it on paper. I just wasn't going to look at it and just take the trade for because I knew the probabilities just based off of that alone in this Friday to the post 10 a.m. low that I was talking about was high. Heard that 4 hours MTF, and I know that how that aligns with our next cycle, so I took the trade. But let's talk about the cycles first. So in the morning we have our XAMD that created our high to make our SMTF sweep. After that, what am I looking at? I'm looking at the 15-minute. I'm looking at the 15-minute for continuations like this, but I'm looking at when the next 90 minutes going to open because let's look at a time. We're going to look at cycles right now. Let's look at this time on the 90-minute. It's 3 p.m. That goes until 4:30 basically. 3 to 4:30 and then whatever 4:30 to for the last 30 minutes. Who cares about the 30 minutes? But this is the last 90-minute candle of market open or of market close. So now that we have our manipulation in manipulation marked out, we can come down to the 5 because we have our cycles marked out. We have accumulation. We know manipulations here because of the aggressive move down in the SMTF. So we have manipulation, and we're waiting for distribution. So we're looking for entries. Do we have valid entry? We have this doubling BPR. We are in CE of the range. We did not take true day open. No, we did. Okay, so we're extremely weak. It's a devil's mark. We're not creating any manipulation to high unless I watch the Dow, but I swear to God, the Dow just doesn't. Yeah, we just didn't do anything. Okay. So coming back to NQ, what am I looking at for entries? 15-minute. The low of this 15-minute. If we just grade the quadrants, we get rid of this because I don't use the 15-minute. I just mark it there for reference, but really mainly every gap I use quadrants for. ICT now he uses eighths, bro. I don't want to do that shit. I'll just read like candle chart or candle structure on the 32nd and 15 to get entries because now we're talking about like candles moving so fast it doesn't even matter at that point because your fill is going to be so much different than where you like want to get in. So right here. The WBPR is this high. We didn't even tap it. And taking on this 15 minute. So first entry right here, WBPR coming into the last macro of the day. So last macro of the day, which means it is the last hour where we get a 15-minute interval on the previous hour and the next hour because we don't have a next hour. So we have ICT's 2022 last macro concept, which is the price, when price is going to either create a continuation to a different pool of liquidity, opposing pool of liquidity, or it's going to reverse, right? So we're having a reversal. We have our manipulation in manipulation. We are in our 90-minute cycle. We have a 4-hour SMTF. We don't need anything other than that, and that is also a daily cycle. So we really don't need anything else other than that. We have candle time and price align on the 4-hour, and now we're using price to align ourselves on the 15-minute and 5-minute, and then we're using PO3 to enter in on the 90-minute candle. So this is backwards, bro. Okay. So let's narrow entry. If we're waiting like inside the macro, you can get in close to this high. These are the quadrants. So like any entry in these quadrants is good. A narrow stop would be like above that in the last quadrant, this 15-minute. Like you want above CE if it's aggressive. So like 40 points would be good. Otherwise, you would wait for the 90 minutes because we can get more structure to narrow our stop. So the 1 minute right here, you could get in on this OB as we drop. So it's a 24-point stop as that 90-minute opens. So if you're waiting for the 90-minute to open and we have that stop, we can see if that 90-minute candle, I'll show it, that we're moving into a fair value gap at that time. So even though we aren't on NQ, we are on ES and the bodies are closing inside of that. And I mean, okay. I mean, we're doing it on ES, but now it's a BPR on, sorry, it's a BPR on ES, but it's only an IFVG on NQ. It was also trading really well in 3 minutes. So if we're looking at 3-minute reentries as well, you have this, no, not that tab. This tap right here that you can get in on the highest 3-minute FVG above the order block. So that 3-minute tap, that would afford you a much lower risk. You could even like go to 20 points, and after this is supporting like this 3-minute, the one in discount, and then the one below it, I would look for a tap into this if it like comes to retrace, because it'll retrace into like CE or premium of the range. But because we, like if we grade the range of every retracement, this retracement was so minor. It was like 25%, barely 50%. Okay, barely 50%. It didn't even come to 50% of that range that we created on the leg down. So this entry to hold for the rest of the 90-minute candle. So if we're talking about the rest of the 90-minute candle to 430, if you just hold for that entire candle, right here, you would get exited like 230 points. My target for the day was post dynamic low, and low of day was my target, and I would have held it there, but it was just it was already at that price, so I just sold it there. And this was honestly luck, but we also edged our discount sell side when we created that DC. So it's done this before. This is like not uncommon now. It's doing this before. So I'm just being cautious, and I want to watch price like hit the low and not create a BPR like this on the way up, because it's been doing this like now in this range like 20 points. It just reverses the other way and it doesn't hit, and it just is continuing to be bullish, which is crazy. So let's look at the 1 minute for re-entries on the 1 minute. I mean, anything in this light down, I mean, really you'd have to wait for a higher time frame PO3 close. Like if you got in on this retrace like that we graded just now, anything in that re-entry, if you were late to it, I mean, we ideally want to trade in that macro time, and the macro time is 2:45. We're on the 1 minute. Is that not? Bro, are you seeing that? It's missing the one. It's missing 4:25. That's crazy. So it's a 3:15. Really, you can narrow that down to the first 10 minutes on the top of each hour. So 250 to 310. But the 5-minute previous and before is also used, but this narrows it down more. So this would be the ideal entry pattern for that. and I got in on the lower quadrant of this, and I had a stop loss at this high, trailed it to the 15-minute wick, and I just took it for proof of concept. You can trail to the 15-minute wick. You can also wait for the 15-minute. If this one you're noticing, like, that is a retrace wick, but we also create a big hammer down, which means we're not creating a body inside the actual imbalance right here. So that means we're highly bearish. And also this candle was bearish on ES, you notice that. So 15-minute divergence, PSP candle. So that's just how time and price aligns with that. It's also an ICT concept. And once you use the quarterly cycles, you just need to sit out and find out where manipulation is, then wait for that last macro, because really we don't want to trade in between, like after lunch reversal, or if it just does whatever it does. After 1:30 is the true PM. And 4 p.m. session open, like true PM session open. If you want to, you can mark out the candle. We can mark out the candle for a CISD, and then use our 90-minute candle as a continuation CISD, like we do for our 10 a.m. and our 10:30 candles. And like how I've said in the other videos, to buy or sell above or below them, you really want to use them as an entry, because that lowers your stop significantly, and it gives you the highest RR because it gives you the most time for price to move. And since we're at the right time, you don't know whether you're going to have an XAMD or AMDX until we have manipulation in manipulation. And this wasn't proven until we had a 4-hour SMTF. So it can either be accumulation, and you don't want to be in that, or it's manipulation, and we want to look for manipulation. And then in this manipulation, we want to ideally wait for distribution cycle in the 90-minute, but for an early entry, we can look at distribution in the manipulation. If it's really dumping, like something like this, you can get an entry right there. But it really didn't have enough signature and price. This dump solidified the signature and price that we are really aggressively moving down. But this entry, you might have had to have a longer stop. Let's look at the 1-minute chart. Okay, I mean, that wasn't a great entry. That was kind of, singular price run. But now that we created, time alignment with price, it definitely tells you that at this time, it's likely to move down. We have all these confluences pointing towards it. So that is how I traded the PM. And that's just how you trade PM in general, because it's honestly really awesome, because you just wait out all the middle of the day. Like literally, when do we get off? We get off at 12 at the latest, like latest, usually like 11:30, 12. So say 11:30, we get off. We wait until, like, you want to be on the charts probably at 1:30. To be honest, you wait 1:30, or you can get on closer to the macro ending, like at this distribution. Like you can get on at 2:45 or like 2:50 if you have your charting ready, and just wait for entries. 2:50, and then our new 90-minute opens at 3 o'clock. Wait 10 minutes, and you might have a great trade, like just by waiting for the right time. Like you don't even need to sit and analyze price sometimes, because it'll just be this 90-minute candle. You just have to wait for that time. So that'll conclude the video. That's all I need to say. Just look at PM. You want to be trading it, because when you become trading full time, you're going to want to trade PM, because there's just more opportunity, and it's honestly high probability, just as equal as the AM, if not more, because we have more data throughout the day. So look at that. Perfect market maker model, plus 10 AM low, and this shit edged us too. Oh my god, NQ. NQ's got to lock in. That concludes the video. I hope I helped you significantly in understanding how to trade PM session, because it's so useful and it saves you a lot of time. And it is great RR, bro. It's great RR. So I'll see you in the next video.